I know I'm sort of jumping around here a little bit, but what I wanted to say too is that I believe that at this time in our lives, that there are certain energies coming in, and it is affecting us, and I think that it is causing a change. I think that's why a lot of this information is coming out. I think you're going to be hearing more and more of this, not just from me, but as other people are hearing this, I think they're going to talk to people, and this information is going to be coming out. Thank God for the internet. But one of the things I just want to touch on really quickly here is the talk about global warming. The idea is that man-made CO2 is causing the global warming. But there's a lot of problems with that, and my thinking or my understanding is that I don't think that it has to do with the CO2. I think it has to do with energies that are coming in at this time that are causing this to happen. One of the things that I want to show you here that I want to give you an example about, and also a very good video to watch, and you can look this up online if you just write it in Google, you can Google it. It's called The Great Global Warming Swindle. Or you can look it up on a site that I created. Actually, I have a handout here for everybody when I'm done with this, because I created a website, and a lot of this information that I'm talking about today will be there. But what you're seeing here is the temperature change over the last 1,000 years. And they're saying, well, the CO2, the man-made CO2 that's causing the global warming. Well, you can see here something that they call the medieval warm period, which happened between like 950 and 1300 AD, which was actually even warmer, possibly, than it is today. Are they going to tell me that there were SUVs driving around in all kinds of factories spewing CO2 into the air? I don't think so, but what accounted for the temperature changes? And then it dipped down to what they call the little ice age, and then, the temperature started coming back up. My take on this is that the temperature has always been changing. It always changes. There are things that are affecting it, but I don't believe that the CO2 is the answer. I wanted to get into a lot more of this in this talk today, but it would put me like way over time, and I didn't want to go too long today. But I'm just going to mention a couple of guys here, and a theory other than the CO2 that's possible about what's going on. Nir J. Shaviv, he's associate professor at the Rakat Institute of Physics in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and Jan Weitzer, professor at the University of Ottawa and award-winning isotope geochemist. Nir J. Shaviv was doing studies on cosmic rays, and Jan Weitzer was doing studies on the global temperature over the last 500 million years. Both of these guys were looking at the ice core records that were taken from Antarctica. What they did was, they didn't know it at first, but then they started to collaborate with each other. I know this might be a little bit hard to see, but what you're seeing here, the yellow and orange line, that is the undulation of the cosmic rays coming in over the period of about 500 million years. And you can see how it goes up and down and up and down. And the red and the green, the blue and the green line is the temperature change according to the ice core records over the last 500 million years. Now, what we're seeing here is when the cosmic rays went up, the temperature went down. And when the temperature went down, the cosmic rays went up. And what they did was, they said, well, why don't we just flip the one and see how they fit? And he goes, you know what? We have some really interesting information here. And what the Great Global Warming Swindle video explains is that when cosmic rays come into our atmosphere, they create clouds. And when there's more clouds, as if you know from being out on a cloudy day, it's cooler. It makes it cooler. It cools down the Earth. So what happens is when there's more cosmic rays coming in and there are more clouds being formed, the Earth is cooler. When there are fewer cosmic rays coming in and there are fewer clouds being formed, then the Earth is warmer. Now, the cosmic rays are coming in from supernovae. These are stars that are blowing up and sending their particles out, and they eventually reach us here. But what makes more or less cosmic rays come into our atmosphere? Well, somebody thinks that it has to do with the sun. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the connection between sunspots and temperature. But when there are more sunspots and there's more sun activity, it seems that the solar wind is stronger. When the solar wind is stronger, it blows away more of the cosmic rays. It doesn't allow as many of the cosmic rays coming in. So when the solar wind is stronger and there are more sunspots, we seem to have warmer temperatures. And when the solar wind dies down and there are fewer sunspots, then we have more clouds coming in and the temperatures decrease. In recent years, the sunspots have been decreasing, and depending on who you're looking at for their temperatures, the global temperature, some people say that the global temperatures are actually dropping. Some people say that they're still increasing, but there's information out there saying that there is a drop in the average global temperature, that we're actually dropping now. And it's because there's less activity coming from the sun. The solar wind is getting weaker and allowing more cosmic rays to come through. And what I want to get into is a paper that was written by Richard Holman and David Wilcock. It's on a website called enterprisemission.com. A lot of this information I have on a handout that I'm going to be giving out at the end of the talk. But what they did was they wrote a paper that was actually based on an older paper written in 1997 by a man called Alexei Dmitriev, another Russian. And he was talking about that there was a lot of things happening to all the planets in our solar system and not just Earth. And he was putting it all together because you might be hearing something about one planet, or you might hear something about another planet. But what he decided to do was put it all together in one paper. And David Wilcock and Richard Holman, they wanted to go and verify this, so they wrote their own paper called Interplanetary Day After Tomorrow back in 2004. And they went to NASA and other reputable sources to get all this information. And I'm just going to give you just a quick snippet of it. If you're really interested, you can go and read the whole article that they have there. But what they found was that the sun, that there's been more activity since 1940 than in the previous 1,150 years combined. And that the sun's magnetic field has actually more than doubled in the last century. This is only one of the things. Mercury, unexpected polar ice discovered along with a surprisingly strong intrinsic magnetic field for a supposedly dead planet. Actually, I believe one of the first probes that flew by Mercury never even indicated that it had a magnetic field. Venus has had about a 2,500% increase in auroral brightness. 2,500. And substantive global atmospheric changes in less than 30 years. Of course, Earth is having the global warming and Earth changes here. Mars is also going through what some people consider global warming. Huge storms and the disappearance of the polar ice caps. That's going on too. You don't really hear too much about it. Jupiter, over 200% increase in brightness of the surrounding plasma clouds. Also, there are certain spots, white spots on Jupiter, that are actually areas where the planetary heat is escaping the planet, and they are slowly dissipating, they're getting smaller. And one of the scientists is saying it's going to cause about an 18-degree increase over the next few years. Well, I don't know how many years, but he believes it's going to cause about an 18 degrees increase, which is global warming for that planet.